Hey everyone, let's do our Knights of Grandshelt review. If I sound a little bit exhausted and all, yeah, I am sick. I don't know whether it's Rona or just a flu. But yeah, I thought let's just get over with it, or else this review wouldn't come out for a week or so. So yeah, is this a Potara Fusion or Fusion Dance? And the answer is in the storyline. So let's get started with Knights of Grandshelt. Base form, he's a light LB finisher, and in Brave Shift he's an even stronger light LB finisher, because JP units, when they are Brave Shift units, they tend to have exactly the same things in Brave Shift as they do have in base form, just with more damage. So what's funny about his kit is that most of the things he just retains, like give us the strength to end this, is the same in base and Brave Shift, and give it all we've got is the same in base and Brave Shift. But give it all we've got, it's what you would expect from a typical premium unit. It's a 50% light amp, 300% attack buff, 250 LB buff, and full LB gauge. And the good stuff, it's on par with Sephiroth and Tifa and all. So that's good. He's, in terms of kit, usability and effectiveness, he's okay. The kit itself is just super bland, as you can see. There isn't even much to talk about his active kit, because his active kit in base and brave is pretty much identical, with just slight nuances and a little bit more damage in brave shift than in base form. So for whatever reason, I find this kind of amusing. Is Glorious Saber. Sorry. This will happen more often though. It's a break gauge ability for great swords. I find this hilarious because Alum hasn't even done a break bar boss in ages, so maybe that's just a galaxy brain move for future proving, but I don't think break gauges are ever coming back, unless Gumi does something about this, which I don't find realistic to assume. What's really cool about Knights of Grandshelt though is on the left hand side, honestly. He has innate 300% demon killer. He even has 200% all race killers. If you equip his TMR or STMR, you are going to equip his STMR regardless, because it's 500 static attack to him. But he cranks things up to 11 with the demon killer, 300% right out of the gate, and 75 on top for beast killer, which is ridiculous. So in terms of killers and all, he's just, well, they are just amazing. Another thing I do like about him is that he has innate guts, which units such as Sky, for example, lack. It's nice to have a guts unit again. It's a premium unit though, so always keep that in mind. Alright, let's talk about the limit burst, because that's where it's at. The base form limit burst, 20% Great Sword Imperil, 80% defense break, so pretty much like for like with Sephiroth, 125 Light Imperil instead of Dark Imperil, for example, 150% LB buff, which is kind of whatever, he has a better one on his Grandus, and 200 X Light Physical to all enemies, single hit, decent. And his Brave Shift, it's a stacking LB, 30% Great Sword Imperil, on par with Esther in that regard, 130 Light Imperil, which I find, they should have buffed this too, by the way. Esther has 135 Lightning Imperil, and I feel like so should have Knights of Grandshelt on this Brave Shift Limit Burst. But the upgrade, the global upgrade to Knights of Grandshelt is his Limit Burst in Brave Shift. It got upgraded to a 420 Blazed Max modifier. This can be increased to 450 if you use Tybus's STMR. Keep in mind though, doing the Tybus STMR rotation requires you to wait for 9 turns, because his Brave Shift is a trans shift, so he automatically unshifts after a certain numbers of turns. I believe it's 4, so you kind of have to wait. It's fine for most times, but if bosses come back with 5 turn limits, or the Titus STMR which wants you to use your burst on turn 5, for example, yeah, that's kind of But for all we know, for the time being, 450x LB, super strong, super strong. Let's check out the real cool things too. It's the TMR, STMR and Vision card. let's skip right to the vision card because that's where it's at, right? It's a 130 attack card, absolutely crazy. Will only get eclipsed by the new Final Fantasy X Tidus that just released in JP, so that's 6 months out for us on global. But yeah, this card has long-lasting power, probably even beyond Tidus's card, who knows. 100% LB damage and 500 static attack for attacker units only. Attacker units are the ones with the red icon, meaning Knights of Grandshelt, Sky, Esther, for example, Lara Croft. And what I really like about this is the 80% attack. And Curtin loves this card too, even though he's not an LB finisher. So basically, this card is best in slot for every single attacker unit in the game. His Trustmaster is only active when the user wears a katana or greatsword. But if that is the case, which it should be, you will get 75% demon and human killer, physical, magical. I forgot to add that. So that's really strong. I mean, we are amidst the either spear meta or greatsword meta with Esther / Roberta and Kain. But yeah, the greatsword meta is only elevated by Knights of Grandshelt. The Super Trustmaster it's good. I just find it kind of that most of the weapons these days have blanket 220 attack. There's literally no flavor to it anymore. It's just different killer types. And this one has 75 Beast and Dragon and 500 static attack, which is Knights of Grandshelt only. So as a verdict, it's an amazing package from start to finish. VC absolutely busted for all units that can use it. And the TMR and STMR are also superb general purpose items. Alright, let's get to the part you guys are probably most interested in, and that's the damage calculation. So what I did here is, let's move on to the next slide. I will compare Knights of Grandshelt on a regular build versus Sky and Esther's regular build. So here you see a regular aquatic insect build for Knights of Grandshelt. I made this just to punish them a little bit. They're still way too slot efficient, as you can see. But yeah, it's still very good. 11k attack at EX3 with all good. So 300% all killers basically that matter for this benchmark. So this is the result. Unsurprisingly, counting out Sky, because Sky is totally busted, and she's a clash unit, Knights of Grandshelt take the crown, basically. Knights of Grandshelt is 118.09% of Esther's damage, and that makes him pretty much the best DPS in the game before Clash of Wills, with one slight caveat, and that is that he's locked to light. As soon as you start mixing elements, Knights of Grandshelt will fall apart in damage, unlike Esther, who has flex 375 LB. It's lower, but it still gets the job done. It's only 18% less, and who knows, if you mix elements on Knights of Grandshelt, will those 18% prevail? I don't think so. He is super easy to use with a brain dead rotation. You can't do anything wrong with him. But it takes 9 turns to fully rotate for maximum damage due to trans shift. And he's only really beaten by Sky's absurd Clash of Worlds scaling. Let's check out Esther and Sky builds when we are not crippling them with really bad killer types, right? So Sky is built for Dragon Reaper, Esther is built for Demon Machina. So both units are using innate killers, just so you guys get an idea of how these units perform against Knights of Grandshelt when the best case scenario applies. I did the same for Dark Reign and Angela, makes sense to do this as well here. So when both Sky and Esther have the ideal case, as you can see, the scaling, or let's start this over. So we can infer that light-based teams with Knights of Grandshelt or Knights of Grandshelt will still outperform Esther. That's just because of the higher modifier. It's simple as that. The 60% self-amp of Esther cannot make up for that difference in LB modifier, but still, the difference is just 4.03% between Knights of Grandshelt and Esther, meaning if you have that Demon Machina boss, for example, yeah, it's probably highly likely that Esther will perform about equal. Knights of Grandshelt will still have the upper hand, but yeah, it's getting a lot closer in that case. Now for Clash of Worlds, on the other hand, there isn't really much to be debated, right? It's self-explanatory. Just Skye, when she can gear for Dragon Reaper, she just soars away. It's such a huge difference, and the fact that Skye almost reaches 10k attack, it's absurd. And you could take this even further, because as you've seen on my previous slide, she wasn't geared for static attack builds, right? You can give her, for example, the Clash Crown with static attack. You could give her the Clash Ring with static attack, and that way she would have 600 more, which is, or 500 more, because Riser's Crown is being lost by it's 10 attack less, but still, it's about 500 to 600 more attack, meaning she'll be sitting at 10k attack on a unit that is so old, has such bad attack value scaling, and trust me, when you build this, it's gonna be crazy. She probably is good enough to solo cap this fight in Clash of Worlds, the current one, on her own, which is bonkers, honestly. But you gotta have to really have things go her way for that. But yeah, will Knights of Grandshelt be able to do some brunt work in Clash of Worlds? Well, the answer depends, right? If the elements align, if the boss is weak to light, Knights of Grandshelt is a decent option, especially in a situation like right now where you don't have Chow. One solution would be to just substitute Chow with any other tank, say Esther, and build a team around non-Clash scaling units such as Kayn, Knights of Grandshelt. I mean, you have Esther on the team already, and you could that way, if you manage to still somehow cap morale, make it so that you cap this fight as well in terms of damage. So yeah, that remains to be seen though whether Knights of Grandshelt will have any merit in Clash. It highly depends. Can you use Light Element? If that is a yes, then Knights of Grandshelt will see play. Alright, so the verdict. Let's get right to the verdict itself. It's an 8 out of 10. I feel like this is a fair rating here. The good things, the 130 Light Imperil, 30 Greatsword Imperil, super high damage, 10% or more damage of previous max damage, meaning Knights of Grandshelt gets a bonus point. He also gets a point for the STMR, TMR and Vision card. Also, +1 point for the slot efficiency that he has. So that's 10 points, but he gets deducted for the Brain Dead kit with no party support, and the Light Lock can and will be a hindrance. So that's also a point that has to be made here. Because at the time Sephiroth came out, having to mix elements wasn't an issue, but we are getting to a point in Trials where you just cannot use Knights of Grandshelt. So the Bloomwing and all the fights, they have 500% light resistance. There's no place for Knights of Grandshelt. Even if you mix elements, it just won't work. And that's why he gets the point deducted. So yeah, all in all, Knights of Grandshelt rides on his amazing TMR, STMR and Vision card and his super high damage on light teams, Asterix. But when fights don't accommodate to his element, he'll fall apart rather quickly. All in all, I would still say he's a must pull for those who are looking for a top tier damage dealer. I mean, I pulled for the Vision card mainly. I don't see any use of his kit or damage going forward, but maybe I'm wrong and the rating is wrong, but I feel 8 out of 10 is a fair rating considering he's a brain dead unit with just super high DPS, and the difference between a unit such as Esther or Roberta, who are 10s, rightfully so in my opinion, is just glaring, because Esther and Roberta do so much more than Knights of Grandshelt than just damage, and that warrants the high ratings on these two units compared to Knights of Grandshelt. So thank you all for watching. Apologies again for sounding a little bit sick. I hope it will pass rather soon, and I'll do my Renault and Angelo video when I'm feeling a little bit better, because I already feel even more exhausted after doing this for 15 minutes, so bear with me for the Renault review. We'll get there though. So yeah, thank you all for watching. Have a wonderful rest of the Saturday evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you're from. Bye bye.